From the top.
We can't hear what you want to play, though.
Okay, guys, here we are again. Welcome to Yodaism or Judaism. And it's your chance now to share your opinion. Is this a quote from Yoda or from another Star Wars character? Or is this a quote from Judaism? Let's test your knowledge of the Force. You guys ready? Ready to play? See some hands. All right, guys, the poll starts now. Ready? Let's go. 10 seconds on the clock. All right, let's end the poll and share some results. 61% say Yodaism, 39% say Judaism, and the answer is Yodaism. Okay, moving right along. Who said this? A small candle pushes away a lot of darkness. It does. All right. And let's see. Survey says 30% say Yodaism, 73% say Judaism. Answer is Rabbi Shneur Zalman of Liadi, the first Lubavitcher Rebbe, wrote a very, very amazing mystical book called the Tanya. Unbelievable introduction to Kabbalah and Hasidic thought. We're going to talk a lot about one of his ideas later on tonight. Let's continue. All right, we'll do a few more polls and then we'll just run through this. Okay? What do you guys say? Yodaism or Judaism? Eyes in their head. The wise have, a fool in darkness walks. 10 seconds, go to 12. Give everyone a chance to vote. Okay. And we have 63% for Yodaism, 38% for Judaism. Survey says King Solomon, Book of Proverbs. Guys, this is an oldie but goodie. This is a classic one. All right, let's keep going. A few more with a poll, and we'll go off the poll. All right, what do you guys got? 10 seconds on the clock.
You gave it away. It's on the screen.
I gave it away already. I clicked too soon. All right, do or do not. There is no try, so it's good. Yoda didn't want me to try that one. Okay, let's try one more. What do you guys got over here? If not now, when? Yodaism or Judaism? All right, 2 more seconds. And we have 86% for Judaism. And you are correct, finally. Hillel, Ethics of Our Fathers. Hillel is basically the Yoda of the Talmud, as you'll see shortly. We have a couple more quotes from him coming up. All right. Truly wonderful the mind of a child is. What do you guys think? Yodaism or Judaism? 8 seconds on the clock. And we have 65% for Yodaism. You guys got that one right. Gotta love that baby Yoda over there. All right, you like that? True knowledge is knowing you know nothing. Let's do one more poll over here. What do you guys think? Yodaism or Judaism? 3, 2, 1. We have 82% for Judaism, and you guys got that one. Rabbi Nachman of Breslov, one of the greatest Hasidic masters who is still learned all over the world today. extremely contemporary in his discussions of joy and depression and real life challenges. Okay, so without the poll, let's try a few more. This one opposite that one. When one rises, the other falls. We just keep polling? What do you guys say? Poll or no poll? Jeremy, what do you say? What does it look like? People like the polling?
I think they get it now. They know that which one's Judaism, which one's Yodaism.
Okay, this one opposite that one. When one rises, the other falls. Who said this? So this is Rashi in the Torah. The Rashi, the famous medieval commentary in the Torah. We're going to discuss this concept a little later on tonight. There's a balance between good and evil. When one rises, the other falls. Okay, darkness rises and light to meet it. Who said this one? Sounds pretty similar, huh? Where do you think Star Wars is getting all their information? The infamous Emperor Snoke. That guy is an ugly dude. Smash him. All right, from my enemy's wisdom I learned. What do you guys think? You can all do it in your head. From my enemy's wisdom I learned. This is King David in Psalms. Another oldie but goodie. In yourself trust not until the day you die. Survey says, Hillel again. From Answer Their House. What about this one? Size matters not. What do you guys say? Of course, that's a Yoda. Yodaism. What about this? Let's do a poll. One more poll. We got to do a few polls every once in a while. At the vessel, what is this one? Rather, what is within? Okay, you guys got that one right. That's mostly for Judaism, and survey says that is Rabbi Meir from Ethics of Our Fathers, talking about the importance of looking at who you are on the inside, not who you are on the outside. Now, this is we're going to see this. This is Rav Shneur Zalman of Liadi, again, the first Lubavitcher Rebbe. Its essence, really his essence, fills all worlds and surrounds all worlds. This is a very, very profound Kabbalistic concept we're going to discuss in a few minutes. Well, look at this. This is a description of the force. Sounds vaguely familiar. It surrounds us and penetrates us. Wait, let's see that again. This is all worlds. It surrounds us and penetrates us. It binds the galaxy together. Obi-Wan Kenobi. All right. And almost last but not least, a master for yourself you must make. It is once again Pirkei Avos, Ethics of Our Fathers. The greatest teacher is the true version of all mastery. Sounds again like a out of Pirkei Avos, Ethics of Our Fathers, but that one is Yoda. It's from everyone, only he is wise. That's got to be Yodaism, right? Once again, it's Ethics of Our Fathers, the little Jewish book of Yodaisms. Okay, one who controls his desires, he is strong. Ben Zova, Ethics of Our Fathers, and just a few more to go. Wars make not one great. Of course, that's Yoda. Luminous beings are we, not this crude matter. That's another Yoda. Fear leads to anger. Anger leads to hate. Hate leads to suffering. That's straight out of Buddhism, actually, but that's a Yoda. And finally, the eye sees, the heart desires, and the vessel completes is Rashi. Again, commentary on the Torah, the idea that what we see affects what we feel in our heart, which affects our actions. It's cognitive behavioral therapy in a nutshell. So guys, thank you for playing. Thank you all for playing. So what is Judaism? What is the connection between Judaism and Star Wars? This is a very big endeavor that I took on tonight, and let's try and tie it all together. So straight from the words of George Lucas, the creator of Star Wars, I see Star Wars taking all the issues that religion represents and trying to distill them down into more modern and easily accessible construct. I put the Force into the movie in order to try to awaken a certain kind of spirituality in young people, more belief in God than a belief in any particular religious system. I wanted to make it so that young people begin to ask questions about mystery. And I, not knowing anything about, what George Lucas intended when I was 4 years old and was taken by my father to see my very first movie was Return of the Jedi in the theaters, the original. And that began a journey for me that has continued until today. And I'll explain what I mean. That from a very early age, I was captivated by the idea of the mystery, of something beyond. And I believe it came straight from Star Wars. And I was not raised observant. I wasn't raised particularly religious at all. And In fact, the whole story of how and why that is, my father was actually in hiding during the Holocaust, and I was passed off as a non-Jew in order to survive the war. And he grew up hating Jews, not knowing that he was one. When he came to America many, many years later, as a child, he was sent to a yeshiva, to a religious school, and it was quite shocking, the dissonance, to suddenly find out that you are a dirty Jew. So based on that, based on my mother's own feelings about Judaism, I was not very particularly religious. As far as Connect launched something within me, a search for the mystery, search for something beyond, for an invisible power that was guiding my life. And I believe it started the journey that took me many, many years, through many incarnations and many, many travels, that brought me eventually to Israel to study Judaism. 5 or 6 years old, I went to, for a little while, to a fancy private school in Manhattan. And one of my good friends was named Nathan Hamill, who was the son of Mark Hamill, who played Luke Skywalker. And I used to go to their house frequently as a kid, and they had a closet. I remember it was like a treasure chest full of Star Wars action figures. And I remember as a kid being blown away that I was friends. Now, I didn't understand the idea of actors or movies, that I was literally friends with Luke Skywalker's.
So is that the window that has the view
son.
of?
Can you imagine that? It was, can we mute people, please? I remember just being blown away that I got to hang out in their house. Unbelievable experience. A few years later, my father, who's a musician, my father's a piano teacher in New York, actually had the privilege of teaching Harrison Ford's kids piano. So got to spend some time with Harrison Ford, my father did, and he's actually a Jew, for those of you who don't know. Let's talk about some of the themes, the Jewish themes that exist within Star Wars, and then we're going to focus in on 2 different concepts. So let's go through, see a couple more ideas. So one major theme in Star Wars is the idea of the hero's journey, that everyone has the potential within themselves to be a hero. We each have a latent power hidden within ourselves. And it really fits with a concept that's taught in Jewish mysticism, especially in the Hasidic movement, that everyone has a unique gift to bring into the world that no one before or no one after can do. So if you haven't figured out what is, start searching, find a teacher to help you figure out what that secret is that you have within. And that brings us to the next idea, the idea of make for yourself a master, as it says in the Talmud, the idea of having a Rebbe, a rabbi, a teacher, or a master to help to bring you up to another level. And the Talmud and the different teachings talk about how to find a Rebbe. You should aspire to find someone that you wish to be like, someone that inspires you, someone that shows you the potential that you have latent inside you. That's really the idea of having someone above you. And another idea in Judaism is very important, which I don't have a slide for here, but it's in the outtakes actually of Yodaism versus Judaism, is give me friendship or give me death. The importance of having a friend. Super important to always have someone that's above you and someone that's equal to you, that you can bounce ideas off, and then finally to have someone below you, a student that you can teach. Because if you really know something, the proof that you know it is if you can teach it to someone else. Let's continue. Of course, the battle of good versus evil. And as we learn through the Star Wars saga, the battle between good and evil really takes place within each and every one of us. As it says in Ethics of Our Fathers, as we quoted earlier, who is strong? Someone who controls their desires. The true strength, true mastery is controlling yourself, is getting to know yourself, is learning who you really and truly are. Another very big message that we get from Star Wars is the idea that anyone can change. There's a concept in Judaism called tshuva, which is sometimes translated as repentance, but really means return, to return to your true self. At any stage in your life, Judaism teaches everyone, every human being possesses free will to be able to return to who they really are. No matter how much wrong you've done in your life, no matter how disconnected you are from your true self, you always have the ability to return to the state of true being of who you really tshuva in Judaism. And another major theme in Judaism is all about the family connection. These sagas take us through the Skywalker family, through various families. There's this incredible family power. And that's what Judaism teaches, is that when you are born a Jew, you are connected to infinite power, to a legacy that's within you of spiritual potential and of a mission. There's a connection to the Jewish people. We're one nation. When one Jew suffers, the Jewish people feel it. And it's our job to care for each and every one of our brothers and sisters. The Jewish nation is really a family. But there's something else also. It's not just a family. It's also about what you believe. Judaism is a very unique path. Is it a religion? Is it a nation? Is it a race? Is it a creed? And the answer is yes. Judaism is all of the above. Because the reality is that, yes, Judaism is a race, right? It's a nationality, it's an ethnic group, right? The majority of Jews are descended from Jews, right? It's a bloodline, but it's not just a bloodline because we accept converts. It's actually a nation. We accept, we give out visas. We let people join our nation. And it comes down to what unites the Jewish people is our belief system. It's the Torah that has kept us Jewish for thousands of years of persecution. It's not a race, it's a creed, it is the way. And according to Judaism, it's the basis, the foundation of what we believe is called halacha, which is Jewish law, which translates as the way. Ultimately, it's about a way. It's about a way of life. It's about a way of being. It's not just Judaism, what you believe. It's about what you do. How do you bring it into your life? Do you bring your beliefs down to the lowest level of how you live your day-to-day life? That is the essence of what Judaism is about. From everything you do, the way you talk, the way you conduct business, that's what it means to be a Jew, is that it should echo down into every aspect of your life. And ultimately, it's about an all-powerful force that surrounds us and penetrates us. It's about the fact that Judaism, at the essence of it, we have to understand, what is the concept of God? Is God? And we're going to talk about that tonight in depth in a few minutes. And a master plan. Judaism believes that we are being guided on a journey, a destination, that human history has a beginning and it has an end. We're going somewhere. So where are we going? The idea of Mashiach, the Messiah, is an anointed one, the chosen one who will bring the world to an era of world peace, a state of balance where everyone will live in harmony. And finally, we have to believe anything is possible, right? Believe in miracles, because Judaism teaches that this entire world is a miracle. Nature is really a miracle that happens every day. And when you put on your Jewish lenses, you see and you recognize the gratitude in every single thing around us. We live in awe of the miracles that are around us all the time. What we call a miracle in the Torah is the temporary suspension of the laws of nature. But really, nature itself is a miracle that you open Jewish glasses and begin to find wonder in every single thing around you at all time. That's the idea of making blessings before we eat, recognizing that the food we put in our body is a miracle. And at the essence of what it means to be a Jew, well, this is a good one, is Yehudi. A Jew, in the Hebrew, is Yehudi, comes from the word Yehuda, the name Yehuda, which means to give thanks. The essence of Judaism is to be thankful and grateful for everything around us. I'll tell you another interesting one. What does Yoda mean in Hebrew? So Yoda actually means the one who knows, the knower. Das, Yodea, Ani Yodea means I know in Hebrew. So that's a good, interesting connection there. Okay, and finally, there will always be skeptics. And that's okay. We're used to it. And Judaism encourages asking questions and seeking out your own answers, seeking out the fact that the entire Passover holiday, which is the focal point of what it means to be a Jew, is about asking questions. Don't take anything for granted. The entire Talmudic system is about question and answer. And if you don't have good answers, keep looking.
We're in this world to find answers to who we are and why we're here. And if you have not found a satisfactory answer, just keep on looking. Okay, so now we're going to talk a little bit about the force according to Kabbalah. All right, I'm going to take us out of this, hopefully be able to get back in a little while. All right. Can everyone hear me? Everything good? Good? All right, great. Okay, talk a little bit about the concept of one all-powerful force controlling everyone and everything. So what do you guys think? All right, if I were to ask you, what is the essence of Judaism? What's the foundational belief of Judaism? Anyone have any answers? We're taking chats over here. If anyone would like to chat in your answers, I would love to hear what you have to say. What does it mean? What is the foundational belief in Judaism? Anyone? So, very first Jew. Belief in Star Wars. There's a purpose to everyone. Everything. We are one. Critical thinking. Very good. I love these answers. And they're all correct, but it all goes back to one foundational idea. One foundational idea. Who was the first Jew? Does anyone know who the first Jew was? Abraham. Good. Abraham. Abraham was the first Jew. And if you look in the histories, what was Abraham's innovation? What did Abraham bring to the world that had not really existed before? And the answer, as we all know, is the concept of monotheism. Right? Monotheism, one all-powerful, all-knowing force. Like Han Solo said, he doesn't like the idea of an all-powerful being controlling his destiny. The idea of one all-powerful force, and the ideas from Judaism of one God infiltrated into the entire world through Christianity and Islam, that now makes up more than half the world. But if you think about it, you got to ask yourself, what's so innovative about that idea? Why is it such a big deal? Many different levels. But if you think about it, before Abraham, we usually think there were many men and women in the sky, right? The Greeks or the Zoroastrians believed in two powers that were warring against each other. We'll talk about that again in a few moments. And Judaism believed, no, there's one man in the sky who smites people. And the truth is that that's really is not the Jewish concept of God. One man in the sky. You see, that when we think about God, we usually imagine a guy with a long white beard, right? You know where that picture comes from? That picture actually comes from Michelangelo's famous picture, right? On the ceiling of the Sistine Chapel of God and Adam. You know that famous picture? But that's not a Jewish concept of God. You know where that concept comes from? It comes from the Greek Romans. It's really Zeus. That guy that smites people, that's Zeus. That's not God. So we actually do not believe that God is a man in the sky. It's kind of funny that the first Russian to go to space was Yuri Gagarin. And it is said over that Nikita Khrushchev told the Central Committee of the CPSU that Gagarin flew into space, and I believe this was announced on national radio in the Soviet Union, that Gagarin flew into space and proved that there was no God because he didn't see anyone there. So between me and you, if anyone believes that God is a man in the sky, so they have to start thinking a little bit deeper. Does anyone know what the Jewish Pledge of Allegiance is? Does anyone know what the foundational core of Judaism is? So feel free to type in to the chats. Shema Yisrael. Excellent, Ronnie. So the Shema Yisrael prayer, I'll prove the centricity of it. It's said every morning, focal point of the prayer service in the morning, every evening. It's said before going to sleep at night. It's the first prayer taught to children, and it's actually the prayer the person is supposed to say before passing away, at the end of their life. It's written inside to fill in the boxes that are put on during prayer service every morning, and it's written inside boxes on your door. You can tell a Jewish house because of the mezuzah, and what's inside the mezuzah. It's not just the box, it's the scroll inside. And what do you think's in it? It's the Shema prayer. So the Shema prayer is literally the foundational idea in Judaism. And the Shema states, simply speaking the oneness that God is one. But it's different than we often think, that there's one man in the sky. On the contrary, the Shema says something quite radical and very different than that. The Shema states, "Hear, O Israel, God." When it says God, it means the forces. The word for God used there means the forces around us. Literally, the forces around us are Hashem Elokeinu. The word Elokeinu means forces. Hashem Echad, which means God is one. Not that there's one God. It's that God is one. God is absolute oneness. That is what Judaism believes. Not that there's a man in the sky, but that God is all there is. There is nothing but him. And the Kabbalists explain that there is nothing besides God. That's really all there is to reality. Now, you think you guys exist? You think there's a world around us? So Kabbalah says, no, it's actually just God. We are literally particles of godliness. We exist within the matrix that God created within his own mind. And in an interesting way, it's really what modern physics has taught us from a couple of different levels. Because for thousands of years, and really from the times of the ancient Greeks, the concept accepted by the scientific community was that the universe was always here. And come a group of radical Jews from the desert in the Middle East, and they come and tell the world, no, there was a beginning. Open up our book, open up the Torah. What does it say on page 1, verse 1? In the beginning, God created the heavens and the earth. And science really didn't accept that until the Big Bang Theory. And now the Big Bang radically changed the way the scientific community viewed the universe. Because the Big Bang Theory states that there was a beginning. So a famous scientist, Robert Jastrow, the founding director of NASA's Goddard Institute for Space Studies, wrote as follows: "For the scientist who lived by his faith in the power of reason, the story ends like a bad dream. He has scaled the mountains of ignorance. He is about to conquer the highest peak. As he pulls himself over the final rock, he is greeted by a band of theologians who have been sitting there for centuries." And he turned to the audience, one of the most prestigious scientific communities, and he said, "Ladies and gentlemen, we have just proven Genesis." And for the Jews, for the Jewish people, it wasn't really so radical, because we knew that for thousands of years, and we didn't budge because the Greeks and Romans said otherwise. We knew that all there is God. And if you think about it, let's try to understand it deeper, because the Big Bang was the beginning of space, time, and matter. That means that whatever preceded the Big Bang was beyond space, beyond time, beyond matter. And if I were to ask you what came before the Big Bang was the beginning of something. Whatever preceded the Big Bang was no thing, was nothing. And God is no thing. God is that no thing. God is the nothingness that preceded the Big Bang. Because whatever set off the beginning of space, time, and matter had to exist beyond space, beyond time, and beyond matter. And we call that God. That is literally what we believe, that God is the essence of existence that preceded the universe. So let's explore a few other quotes, and we'll see perhaps the difference between Judaism and the Force. Okay, now another thing that came out through science is the idea of E equals mc squared. The idea of E equals mc squared, which was discovered by a Jew, all right, Albert Einstein, is the idea that there is no such thing as matter. In fact, you think that you live in a world that's physical, but really inside your own body is infinite energy, potential. Literally, we have within us all the power of the universe right within ourselves. So I want to show you a few more ideas. So let's look through a few quotes. Okay, so we have the mantra of Judaism, which is the Shema Yisrael. that Hashem, God, is one. And we're going to explain the word Hashem. For those of you who aren't familiar with it, Hashem is the vernacular way of referring to God, which means literally the name. And we're going to explain what the name of God is in a few minutes. Okay? And there's another famous expression in the Talmud, Ein od milvado, which means there is nothing but God. That is really all there is. The Zohar says there is no empty place, nothing empty of him. No place empty of him. And the writings of Kabbalah and Hasidus explain that God's essence fills all worlds simultaneously and also surrounds them. Now, this concept really is perhaps at odds with the idea of the Force in Star Wars, because the Force, it says, is created by all living things. And according to Kabbalah, it's some people, you know, some of the opponents of the Hasidic movement claimed that the Hasidic movement was pantheistic. So what's the idea of pantheism? The idea of pantheism is that everything is God. The entire universe is God. But Kabbalah is quite different from that, because you see another famous quote in the Torah, in the Talmud, another name for God, a way of referring to God is Hamakom, which means the place. And the Talmud explains because God is the place of the world, but the world is not his place. And I want to explain to you what that means. So in pantheism, everything is God. So if you take an equation of pantheism, God minus universe equals 0. God minus universe equals 0. But in Judaism, see, Judaism, some of the Jewish theologians explain, is really not pantheistic according to Kabbalah. It's not that God is everything, it's that God is in everything. It's called panentheism. Not that God is everything, that God is in everything, and that everything exists within God. So it's really quite a different concept, because according to Judaism, God minus universe equals God. If you take away the entire universe, you still have God in his oneness. The universe neither takes away nor minimizes the oneness of God, because that is all there really is. In fact, the word for God in the Torah is actually a verb. And it's a verb that means existence. Let's take a look at 3 Hebrew words. We have the word what was, haya, followed by the word what is, hoveh. And now, if you add on to that the word yeh, which means what will be, if you take those all together and add them up, you get Yud, He, Vav, He, which is literally the name of God in the Torah. We don't pronounce it because what it really means is what was, what is, what will be, and beyond. It is a verb that means existence. God is absolute reality. God is absolute existence. There is no such thing as anything separate from God. And that really brings us to our next discussion. So if God is the ink on which the universe is drawn, the paper on which the universe is drawn, and the ink, that's all there is. And that really brings us to the discussion, which is so primal in Star Wars, of darkness versus light and good versus evil. So we have a concept in the Torah that there is a balance in the world, just like similar to Star Wars, of the balance in the Force between darkness and light. There's a balance between good and evil, and in each and every one of us, there is a balance. The concept that we quoted before is Zeh L'Uma Zeh Asa Elokim, that God created the world, this one against that one, this one opposite that one, that there is always an equal pole in the universe between darkness and light, between good and evil. In order for there to be, what happens if you don't have an equal pole? So you lack something. If God were revealed to us right now, if every time you did the wrong thing, you got smitten by Zeus's lightning, so what would you lack? Would you have the ability to choose to do wrong? Would you cease to do wrong if it was so obvious? That when there's equal pull in both directions, you have free will. You have the ability to choose between good or bad. And in fact, according to Kabbalah, a human being exists right at the center between worlds. Animals don't have free will. Animals do whatever their bodily impulses tell them to do at any moment. Angels don't have free will. They have pure intellectual clarity on what the will of God is. A human being, though, the Torah says, is made up of dirt, physicality, and a soul, spirituality. And because we have those two diametrically opposed powers within us, we have a pull, an equal pull in both directions, towards darkness or light, towards good or evil. And we have a choice at any moment. Do I listen to my bodily impulses, or do I do what my mind knows to be right? Do I study for my tests, or do I watch Netflix? Do I eat another piece of cake, or do I go on a diet? Go to sleep on time. Do I cheat on my test, or do I try my best? At every moment, do I speak badly about my roommate, or do I hold it in? We have the ability to choose what we listen to. Our soul, which is our higher impulses, our higher desires, our higher drive, our intellectual capacities, or do we listen to our body, what our body wants to do, which is immediate, instant gratification? Ultimately, we believe that the goal is not balance between good and evil, though. The goal is that good should win out. In many Eastern religions, the idea of oneness of God means that everything is God. Well, that also means everything is good, and that's a Jewish concept. Everything is good. There's a famous phrase in Hebrew, which means this too is for the good. And the Talmud says a person should condition themselves at every moment to say, this too is for the good. All right, so we have God created this one versus that one. When one rises, the other falls. The Talmud says a person should accustom themselves to say everything the compassionate one does is for the good. Everything that happens to us is good. The question is, why then do we fight evil? If everything's good, maybe there's no such thing as evil. And that brings us to a very interesting discussion. But the Talmud says the answer, the Jewish answer to that question. And whereas in perhaps certain paths, certain spiritual systems, everything is good and everything is spiritual, so why fight against oppression? Why try to end poverty and hunger? And the Jewish answer is yes, everything is for the good. And what that means is we were put into the world with certain talents and certain abilities. We must do whatever we can to fight against evil, to eradicate evil. A Roman general once asked Rabbi Akiva, famous sage in the Talmud, if God controls the world, why is there poverty? And Rabbi Akiva answered, in order for us to help. We're partners in creation with God. That means when we see evil, we must fight against it. And we believe that ultimately light will overcome the darkness. That's the idea of the Messianic era, when the entire world will come together in world peace. And that is the Jewish vision. It's written on the outside of the United Nations. It's inspired nations in modern time to strive for something called world peace. The world, although it seems so far away, is closer than ever before, especially now during coronavirus. We are united more than ever in human history, the world working together towards a common good. This is an unbelievable realization that if someone had said 3,000 years ago to some Jewish band of nomads in the desert that your concept of world peace would someday pass through to all the nations of the world, the whole world would finally be working together, no one would have believed you. The idea of oneness, of world peace, comes straight out of Judaism. Because in a pagan world where there are many forces controlling your destiny, many powers, many gods, so it's an incessant struggle between my God against your God. And depending on who's going to win the war. So I'm constantly fighting over the resources because I want my God to be triumphant. Judaism comes and says, no, no, no. There's not your God versus my God. There's one God. That means we're all in this together. That means there are more than enough resources to go around. We just have to work together to help each other. And that's the idea that in the Messianic era, according to the Rambam, Maimonides, the greatest Jewish philosophers of all time, who wrote 1,000 years ago, that the Messianic era will not be a miraculous existence. There won't be crazy lightning bolts from coming out of heaven, or it doesn't have to be like that. But rather, it'll just be human beings coming together and living in peace. And the Rambam points out there'll no longer be poverty anymore and no longer be jealousy. Well, that sounds pretty miraculous. The answer is if we work together, there's no need for poverty. We can literally eradicate it. if everyone joins hands. So now let's talk about a different idea. So this brings us to the next point. Now, in Star Wars, there's a concept of the light and the darkness. And the famous Hasidic teaching, which we quoted in the Judaism versus Yodaism, that the Rav Shneur Zalman of Liadi, the first rabbi of Chabad, said, if you want to fight darkness in this world, don't take it head on. Instead, the Jewish answer is light a candle. Do a mitzvah, do a good deed. Bring light into the world, because a small flame pushes away a lot of darkness. So we have to strive against the fight against evil. The way that this concept of the darkness and light side of the force perhaps comes out of Zoroastrianism or Taoism, where there's darkness and light. There's two different forces, and Judaism does believe very strongly in darkness and light. It believes in yin and yang, right? According to Kabbalah, there's masculine energy, feminine energy, giving and receiving in every single interaction and everything in the universe. But ultimately, what Christianity did, and perhaps Zoroastrianism as well, is given an independent existence to the concept of evil. God versus the devil, God versus evil. You could either be serving good or you can be serving bad. And according to Judaism, that is not true. Really, we believe that God is the one. God is one. That means that both good and bad come from the same source. They both come from oneness. There are two sides of the coin, and ultimately it's all for the good. So it says, as it says in Isaiah, God is the former of light and the creator of darkness, who makes peace and creates evil. Evil does not have independent existence. So the Zohar, the book of Kabbalah, gives a metaphor to explain evil. It says as follows. You know, if you want to grow in life, if you want to grow and become better, you know what you need? You need challenges. You need resistance. Because if you go to the gym to work out and you lift 2 pounds, like I have a 2-pound weight in the basement, I got to get myself an upgrade. So you're not going to build much muscle mass. You need resistance. It's the challenge and the opposite force that builds strength. And I think all of you can probably, if I were to ask each and every one of you to share with me a challenge that you've been through in your life, or a moment when you've really grown, you'll remember the hard times, because it's through the hard times that we really bring out the latent potential that we have inside us. As we said, the hero within comes out when we face challenges, oppression, and darkness. So the Zohar says that it's like a king who wanted to test the prince to see if he was worthy of becoming the next king. So he hired a harlot to come and tempt the prince. Tempt the prince to do the wrong thing. And the Zohar says that that harlot is working for the king. It's just there to bring out the latent potential within the prince. The prince wants to do the right thing. He just has to be given the opportunity to overcome. When you win, when you overcome evil, so even the force of evil wins, because it wants ultimately for the good to come out. And there's one holiday in the Jewish calendar, which is very common, the holiday of Purim, which celebrates this concept that everything is good. Because on Purim, there's a mitzvah to get so drunk that you don't know the difference between good and evil. And the deep meditation there is to meditate on the fact that all there is good, that everything ultimately is for the good, even the things that look bad in our life, even the Holocausts, even the trauma, even the suffering that we've all been through in our lives. It's all there to help to bring out the good within us, to bring out the ultimate force and power that exists within us. So Judaism teaches ultimately that the greatest force in the universe exists within each and every one of us. Every human being has the ability to tap into unbelievable, incredible potential. And if you give yourself that opportunity to really grow, to become the best you can be, to tap into the power of your soul, you can literally change the world. And that's the power of what Judaism has been teaching. Coming up next week, a week from today, is a Kabbalistic holiday known as Lag BaOmer, which celebrates, according to some opinions, the Yurtzeit, the day of the passing of Rabbi Shimon bar Yochai of the Zohar, which is the book of Kabbalah where we get a lot of the Kabbalistic ideas. And another idea brought down about that day is it's the day that Rabbi Akiva, was one of the greatest sages of the Talmud, actually faced a plague. There was a pandemic in the times of Rabbi Akiva where thousands and thousands of his students passed away from the plague. And they say that Lag BaOmer is the day that they stopped dying. The question is, why are we celebrating on the day they stopped dying? The reason they stopped dying is because they were all dead. There were only 5 students that remained. It's a tragedy. It's not a day to celebrate. And one of the answers given that I just heard last night is the reason we are celebrating is because Rabbi Akiva, had he been human, he would have quit. He would have said, that's it. I just lost my entire academy. I lost all of my students. I'm done. But the Jewish answer, the Jewish response to suffering is he picked up, he took those 5 remaining students and he continued to teach them. And from those 5 students, we have the entire oral tradition, the entire Talmud comes through Rabbi Akiva and his students. So that's really the Jewish answer, is we fight darkness with light. We continue to go inside and to get in touch with the power that we have that we would never discover if we quit, if we didn't continue on the journey to see. And there's a famous quote that I think is so meaningful, that the greatest distance in the universe is not from one galaxy to the other. It's not from heaven to earth. The greatest distance exists within us, within our very souls, between our mind, between what we know, and between our heart, between what we believe and what we feel and what we do. The goal of Judaism is to bring belief into who we are, and we do that through the struggles of life. So in conclusion, I want to give you guys a blessing. It's not, it's Hashem. May Hashem be with you always.